Harvest Bank is a proud sponsor for today's Fresco L podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Fresco El Podcast. I'm Luis Padilla, and today's guest is someone who represents what long-term vision and consistency can build. He didn't step into leadership overnight. He grew within the organization, delivered results over time, and helped transform a club into a model for Major League Soccer. Along the way, he became the youngest president in MLS, was named to the Sports Business Journal 40 Under 40, and in 2024 was recognized as MLS Executive of the Year. This conversation is going to be about the person behind the journey, the decisions, and the mindset that defines how he shows up. Today, we're going to be talking with Jake Reid, President and CEO of Sporting Kansas City. Jake, welcome to Fresco Podcast. How are you?
Yeah, excited. You and I have a lot of history, so wild to be doing this 15 years later.
I know, right? A lot of people. First, congratulations on 10 years as a CEO.
Yeah. I think you might be the first one to remind me of that, but you are correct. 2016. So
so 10 years. So thank you for celebrating with us.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. I was talking as we confirmed that you were coming. I was talking to people, and I was like, Jake. I met Jake like probably 15 years ago when the Sporting, the whole Wizards rebrand to Sporting, and new stadium and the offices and the Crossroads.
Yep.
And so crazy. I was just an intern with Sinoe Mendoza, and we were the three amigos, Eric Estrada, Sinoe, and I. Yeah. And you sit. You were in the sales department.
I was running ticket sales at that point in time. So that was the early days, the first office downtown, and we were getting ready for the stadium to open. So that was an exciting time in the trajectory of the club.
Yeah. So and for you, I mean, it's been, and we're gonna talk about it, but I'm sure it's these 10 years and 15 years in the club have been a crazy journey.
Yeah, I tell everyone I came in with a 3-year plan. I was, we'll talk about the journey, but I came from the UK and got here and kind of figured, let's get the stadium open, let's get this thing going, and then I'll probably jump back to the NBA. So I'm in year 15 of my 3-year plan, but it's worked out okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to the basketball and going to England and all that. But before I ask this question, if you can go to dinner with anybody from the past or now, who would you go with and why?
I love that question. Alive or dead? I'm just making sure I got all the guardrails here.
No, dead or alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I look at some of the leaders in sport for me. Like I think a guy like Coach K would be super fascinating, right? Someone who took over a program, wasn't really known for being a basketball powerhouse at Duke when he was there, at least, and transformed it. Phil Jackson would be interesting. I think someone who's managed massive personalities, huge persona, best of the best athletes, and I think in sport and in business in general, I think people think if you have all-stars on your team, you're going to win, and it takes a lot more than that. And so those guys have had to manage personalities. For me, that would be a couple interesting. Just what was it like? How'd you bring it together, and how do you just consistently deliver success?
Yeah. Phil Jackson with the Chicago Bulls, and then the Lakers. Yeah, so I can imagine having all those players in the locker room, right, and make them play.
Yeah, you got to bring it all together. So individuals don't win championships in that sport. So interesting to see how those guys did it. Yeah.
Do you in your role? I'm sure. I mean, you're in the business side, but I'm sure you also involved in the sports side.
Yep.
And do you see that Do you see that kind of like the mix of personalities and all that in the locker room, but also in the C-suite level?
Yeah. So in our organization, I run all the business and kind of the that side of the house, and we've brought on David Lee this year, who runs all the soccer side. So him and I are peers in the organization. So I'm engaged. It's more on the leadership side, the staffing side, less on kind of the player and recruiting side, which is good for the team because we'd be way worse if I was in charge of that. But yeah, you're managing personalities. You're managing everything from. At the end of the day, the athletes are human beings, right? And I think just like you and I have things in our lives going on, they might have a wife who's pregnant, or a young kid at home, or an agent who's overly involved. And so I think there's a lot more than just looking at the the guy and wondering why isn't he showing up like he should today. And so you've got to manage all that, and there's a great team behind that does that. And so I help more on the leadership side of that.
The leadership side. And now that you mentioned sporting, so we know that there's a new ownership. Yep. And a lot of things, as we were talking off the record, there's a lot of things going on and new things. And so what, how do you think about the future of the club?
Yeah, we're not bored right now. So, I think having been here for so long, and we've had, I think one of the strengths of the club is the consistency that we've had over that time period. And we had such a great run over the last 15 years, and it's been disappointing the last few. And I think fans see that, and we saw that internally. And so there's been a ton of change over the last 6 months, right? I think you saw the news a couple of weeks ago with Peter Maluk coming in as the majority shareholder. Peter's been with the club since 2022. He's been involved. He's been familiar. I think the good news is we will have continuity. Cliff and Mike on the Illig family are still going to be out front in the day-to-day manager. So my current boss doesn't change, but I think you got a guy like Peter who he's a Kansas City guy. His business is here, incredibly committed to sports in general. And I think having that person take over the majority of the club is massive for the fans. You saw him come out and comment about winning is the priority, and so I think early days of that, but exciting to have Peter on board. And then a lot of new on the team side, right? David Lee, I mentioned, is our new president of soccer operations. He joined us in October, if I've got my dates correct. We hired Rafa Wicki as the head coach at the end of the year. Last year, he's built his staff now, and so I think new can be scary, but new is energizing and exciting, and I think you bring different perspectives to things, new eyeballs on things, and just 'cause we've done it this way for so long doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. And so I think you've seen a fresh approach so far in our first couple weeks of preseason.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I think just in general, Kansas City and the public, the fans, they're excited with the change and what they're saying. New perspective, new approach after these years and stuff. And so, like you say, new change is for the good, or new things can come, right? And people can be excited about the new season. Yeah,
I think it's a new era for us, and that's exciting. And we've got a lot of work to do still, but I think seeing the behind the scenes and the pieces and the personalities that we have in place, I'm incredibly excited for the future and where we're going.
Yeah. So, sporting has changed a lot, right? I remember probably this is not much about like a rebranding, obviously, but like back in the day, people were not fighting, but sometimes the change, they love the Wizards. Yeah. They didn't want the Sporting Kansas City. But then, everything turned into a great organization, a winning team and stuff. And how is, you have new ownership, but it's hard when people probably don't realize that Kansas City, I don't know now with the new teams, but Kansas City is probably the two smallest market in the MLS. Yep. So how do you make that, into a business opportunity that you in a small market and you're competing, because people want results no matter what, right? On the field side. But you're competing with Miami, with LA teams, where the market is massive compared to Kansas City.
Yeah, I think in life in general, I try to take, what are the challenges and maybe the obstacles that are in your way and turn those into, strengths if possible. I think for us, we have a small market in Kansas City, but we have a big region, right? I think we don't have any, St. Louis has come in the last couple of years. Outside of that, our closest markets are, Denver, Dallas, Chicago, right? And so how do we do what I think the Chiefs done a good job of is, own the region and expand the region. We've got youth, teams in 6 states around us. And so how do we pull fans in from there? And then you're right. Like at the end of the day, fans, listen, small market, big market, they want a competitive champion on the field. And I think that's what we've got to deliver. So are there challenges that, we have that maybe a Miami or New York or LA who have bigger commercial markets don't have that challenge? Sure. But I think also, for us, I think we've got top tier facilities. Our owners have invested in, not just the stadium, but also the training center for the first team, training center for the second team, and the academy team. So I think we've got the infrastructure. For us, it's always been, we just got to get people here, right? I think when we opened the training center, we knew if we could get the agents to come, they're going to go back out to the rest of the world and say, you guys won't believe what we saw in Kansas City. Like, I know you haven't heard of it. All you've heard of is LA and New York, but trust me, this is a place you want to be. And so I think that's over the years, that's come to fruition. And now it's, we're kind of in this moment in time where we've got a lot of roster flexibility, and now we've got to deliver on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure, but me being not that same role, but involved in soccer, and I see when people don't realize about Kansas City or they don't know what we have here and what the Sporting has built and stuff. But Something that I think is very interesting, and not a lot of people, like I say, fans, they care about winning, and that's it, right? It's like they don't see the whole things behind the scenes. And but also I think on the business side for you and somebody that a CEO and different sports franchise is I think they don't realize that the business side and the sports side go hand to hand, but on the sports side there's so much things that they're not in your control. Right, so you cannot control who plays, who doesn't play, if we win, if we lose. So how do you lead when so many of those things are out of your control and directly affect, right, the front office?
Yeah, I love the question. And if my team was here, they'd be laughing right now that you asked it. They've heard me say a million times. I'm a huge control the controllables guy. My team's heard me say it more times than they probably care to admit. But you're right. I would say in our lives, there's not many things every day you can control, right? You can control how you respond to things. You can't really control what happens. You can control how you respond, how you engage, how you choose to move forward. And I think for me on sports, it's part of what I love is that, we ride that emotional roller coaster of what happens on the field, right? On match day, when the whistle blows, what happens between those white lines, I can scream and yell and shout and blame the ref and blame our team and whatever else you want to do. At the end of the day, the result's going to happen. I think our job is how do we make sure that the environment is electric in the stadium, the players are ready, we've done the work on the front end, and at that point, what happens, and then we've got to respond. And I think if I came into the office every time we lost and was moping around and had no energy, the whole staff's going to be like that. If I come in every day and we're ready to go and ready to run through the wall, they're going to pick up on that energy too. So I talk a lot about to our leadership. It's our job to set the tone every day, and it doesn't matter what happened on the game day. It doesn't want to happen the day before. We got to show up every day ready to go, because ultimately the team, the players, the staff, they're going to feed off the energy of the leaders.
Right. And then the team. I mean, sports is sports, right? Like you're gonna win, you're gonna lose, and but the business side needs to keep going.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if I go to Cliff and Mike or Peter and say, hey guys, sorry, like we didn't do anything we needed to because the team wasn't as good. I mean, it's not an acceptable answer. It's my job to make sure that, that stadium needs to be full. We need to have the fans there. We need to have people, showing up. We need to be in the community. We've got to have our partners that we're delivering for. And listen, we can add value, win, lose, or draw. Yeah. Is it more fun at games when we win? Absolutely. For me, for the staff, right, for the fans, for the players, trust me. But at the end of the day, I think, we can deliver an experience that should resonate and be positive, whether you're coming out with friends, family, coworkers. We all want to win, but at the end of the day, it's our job to make sure the experience is a fantastic one, regardless of the result.
Right. And so I mentioned that in the intro, and I know that sporting has been one of the, like MLS and a lot of teams look at sporting for many different reasons and business, marketing, technology. But I know that early on, sporting was big on technology and the fan experience and the way that you guys were doing the sales tickets and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like, what have you made of the team, the franchise differently, and since early on that other teams in the MLS or soccer clubs around the world don't do?
Yeah, it's fun. I was talking about this the other day, and it dates the age of how long I've been there. And I remember when we opened in 2011, we were one of the first stadium to have Wi-Fi in the country, which is hilarious to say out loud in 2026, right? But I think our ownership, and I give them credit, it was always about how do we innovate, how do we be out front, and how do we use the fans as guinea pigs. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, we were transparent, and we are transparent, and we're going to try a bunch of stuff. Some of it's going to work really well. Some of it's not. And if we break it, you don't like it, tell us and we'll change it quick. I think we always talk about, there's no pride of authorship for us. We're trying to deliver a great experience. We think technology is and was a big part of that. And so we kind of led with that. I think we're one of the first teams to do digital tickets as well. And again, all of these are at the core of not being able to say, look what we're doing, but how do we make the experience as seamless as possible, right? So looking at what are the pain points, what don't fans like, how do we make that easier for them when they show up? And I think, for us, it was how do we continue to innovate? And that was really the start of the rebrand for sporting back in, the end of 2010 going into the 2011 season.
Yeah. And I'm sure being owned by technology company had a lot to do.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Cliff and Neil and Cerner and what they did, I mean, it was the same thing, right? They were out front on the medical side of things and how do we use technology to advance an industry. And I think sports generally were behind the curve on a lot of things, right? In terms of just what you would experience in your regular life and how you interact, sports is typically behind. We didn't know our fans as well. We didn't know enough about them. And so we also try to, we use technology to help with that, right? How do we personalize your experience, Luis, versus mine? Because you might like something different than I do, and we shouldn't just send everybody the exact same amount of information. So how do we make sure that whatever you're looking to do, we can help you accomplish that specific thing?
Yeah. I remember back in the day, it was we help bring tickets to some of the local businesses. Just right at the beginning, it was like we will bring 100 tickets to this restaurant and go and pick it up at the end of the week.
Yeah. I mean, you were doing it right. I think a lot. Again, I think sometimes brands make the mistake of if you're trying to force your fans to do something that you want them to do versus meeting them where they are. And I think that was a good example, right? We knew that, particularly in the Hispanic and Latino community, they had amazing resources within their community, and rather than force them to do something that they didn't do for anything else they bought, hey, let's work with them. If you're buying your tickets from a soccer shop or a restaurant, great, we'll bring the tickets to you and make it work. And we wanted to embrace that community and make it easy. And so, you were on the ground literally doing a lot of that, but it was good. And I think that helped build, the fandom and the ground swell for the new stadium.
Yeah, I think I think definitely it helped with making relationships with the community. You growing that fan base, and it's I mean, now it's different, but like you say, in 2011 Wi-Fi was a new thing, so you can imagine a lot of people didn't use apps, didn't buy tickets online and stuff, so that was the way to work. And I think what Sporting and you guys did fantastic, it was to adapt to that, right? I
think the relationships and listen, we could name the list of characters that you would know. I still have relationships with them from when I was doing that from the ticket side, right? And so I think for me, as I've grown my career within Sporting, it doesn't mean that, I still talk to a lot of those folks. And so we've evolved how we interact, but if you didn't do that initially, you wouldn't have a relationship going forward.
Right. Yeah. We say hi to Raul.
Yeah. Exactly.
But let's take a pause a little bit and let's go, because I want to know, what was Jake like growing up?
Yep.
You from Ohio?
Yep.
But how was your childhood?
Yeah, I think good. My parents may have a different answer if you ask them. But listen, I grew up. I love playing sport. Played basketball, played football. Didn't really play a lot of soccer. Probably played for a year and realized I was too tall and lanky and not very good. And so, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. Went to a small Division III school to play college basketball there. But I think, to me, I loved the sports side of things. I love the competitiveness. I love the camaraderie. I love the team aspect of it. And then I enjoyed the challenge of how do I get better and how do I improve. And that was probably what drove me. It's funny, people always ask me what drove you? I don't have a good answer on that other than, my parents were supportive. They, I think were realistic with me on, expectations. So I had a good set of, discipline, rules, knew what I could get away with. And I tested those boundaries as all teenagers probably did, but for me it was I want to be really good at sports. I want to have great relationships, and to me that was the portal to do all those things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is there a moment that you remember? I always say, everybody that comes here, I would say, hey, is there a moment in your childhood that you still remember and it's like a good memory, a good time?
I've got a lot. I don't know if there's one that stands. I remember the stress of, this is old school. My kids play basketball now and they don't do this as much, but it was you would go, and it was training before they announced the roster, and you'd go in the locker room and get the speech and you come out and it was the whiteboard of if your name was on there, you're in, and if not. And so thankfully my name was, but I just remember that feeling the first time that happened. I'm never not having my name on that list, and whatever I need to do that, I don't want to come out of this locker room and not see Reid on the list. And so I think there's a bunch of those little things of, how do you, but then what do you do about it? You can just say it and hope it happens, or, how do you put in the work? And so those are moments where I think your parents, at least my dad was, constantly preaching, to get what others don't, you got to do what others won't. Right. And so that was a quote that was seared into my brain. And I think sometimes you don't realize what that means until moments like that where you're okay, I've got to make sure that if I just show up for practice every day, I'm going to be exactly the same as everyone else. I've got to do a bunch outside of that to get better. And I think that's, again, what I look back on now, what I love about sport, that's the same in life, right? That's whether you want to be a great friend, have great relationships, be a great spouse, be a great business leader. All those things are true. If you're going to do the minimum amount of work, you should expect the minimum amount of results.
Right. Yeah. And I love that because I have it on my notes. I see the quote that you had in the, I think it was, you say a flyer poster in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, there's this like awful thing called like jump stretch, which is like rubber bands like anchored into the ground that you would put on your shoulders, and it was, it was awful. I mean, it was like I hated doing that, but it was like right in front of you, and so you would stare at it as you were cursing under your breath as to what you were doing. But I mean, like most things in life, you probably look back and realize it was probably good for you.
Yeah. And I love that because I also my college coach, he would tell us expecting different results doing the same is the definition of insanity, right? So and this is just for everybody, sometimes we want things, but we're not willing to do what it takes.
Yep, couldn't agree more. I'll butcher it, but I'll paraphrase it. There's another one I've seen where if your dreams and your habits are not aligned, you shouldn't expect it, right? So if your dream is to be this, but your habits dictate this, the habits are going to be where you get to, right? And so I think you can overshoot your dreams if you have your habits in the right direction, but I think people make the mistake. And listen, I talk to our staff a lot about this. I think the young generation gets a bad rap for, they don't want to work hard, they don't want to do these things. And I always ask them, I said, hey, if we went through the things that are important to you, they're the things that are important to me, to my parents. Like, what are they? You want to be successful. You want to have good relationships. Some of you might want to be married and have kids. Some of you might not. But if regardless, you want to support yourself or your family, you want to be successful. All these things are true now. No one's going to say that. No, I don't.
Right.
I'm just here to, hopefully collect a paycheck, and I don't really care if no one likes me, right? And so then it's how do you motivate them? How do you get them aimed in the right direction and show them a path to be successful? Because if they're delivering for you, you should deliver for them as well.
Yeah. I think it's so important, and nowadays, where I don't know if there's a thing or something like, how can I say this? It's just a lot of people don't realize sometimes that, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, you work over weekends, right? Being in sports industry, you work weekends.
Yes.
So put in extra hours. If you go to playoffs, you're gonna work hopefully a whole other month and stuff like that. So it's just putting the work that the results are probably not gonna be as fast or as sometimes as you expect. You have to keep consistency. You have to keep working on it, on your goals.
100%. Listen, talk to anyone who's successful. I don't care what your passion is, whether it's business leadership, athletes, anything in life, and ask them if they got to where they were by doing the minimum. No one's going to say that, right? And so the point there is whatever you're willing to put in should be what you should expect to come back out. And I think, to me, I've been very fortunate in life. People talk about luck. I think there is certainly luck along the way, but it's about putting yourself in the right position to be lucky when those moments come. And so I think that's where the hard work, the extra time comes in. And listen, in our profession, 20 plus weekends a year, we're playing matches, right? We plan on weeknights, holidays, birthdays, anniversaries, all the above. And I think that's part of it is, again, if you're not willing to do that, then, pick something else. But whatever that something else is, there's also going to be extra work that needs to happen if you want to ultimately continue to be successful.
Right. And just knowing that there's a lot of other people that want the same as you do,
sure.
Right? Yeah. So there's always going to be competition, and somebody's going to be putting the extra work.
Yep.
So I think it's the same way, and I think it's a good message, to send to whoever listens, all ages. It's just you cannot expect something just to happen if you don't put the work on it, and like you say, align habits. I think the actions that we do every day, sometimes people don't people take it too easy, I'll go to the gym and all that, but this is discipline about waking up at the same time, at the same hour, stuff like that, like having breakfast, not having breakfast, eating at the same time, or going to bed, little stuff like that. Does that make a change?
Could not agree more. I think it's, are you consistent? Are you disciplined in it? And do you have a plan every day that is repeatable? And listen, not to say that it happens every day. It doesn't, right? I mean, right. I wish I could tell you, here's my ideal day, and I do it 7 days a week. That's not true. But I think, to me, it's having that consistency and discipline will ultimately lead to the right result.
What is something that is consistent? Like what habits you have in the morning, like what it looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I work out in the morning just because I think for me it's great energy. It clears my mind. It's the only time I can do it because in my world I feel like I'm meeting somebody for a happy hour or dinner or evening, or if not, I'm going home and I'm chasing two kids around. And so it's just that's the only time I've got to do it. So I'm up, I work out and get ready, get the coffee flowing, and then away we go. And so if I can do that every day, and I'm pretty consistent on that, then that's the best version of me that you're going to get every single day.
Early on?
Early, I get up at about 5:30, and I'm trying to work out by about 6 and wrapping up the workout by 6:45 and out the door by 7:45, 8 at the latest with ready to go. And listen, I think it doesn't have to be everyone's. That doesn't mean everyone should do that, right? For me, that's what works. That's what I need to do based on my life and my role and my job, and then ultimately, I can just tell you the clarity and energy and just mental focus I have on the days I do that versus I don't, I notice a huge difference.
Right. And I was, and it's like you said, not everything is going to work for everybody, right? Like I was listening to another podcast with another CEO, and he was saying I woke up at 11 a.m., but that works for me because I'm very creative at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., right? So he's like, I go to bed late, and I wake up late for most people, but I'm very productive and my day doesn't end until 2 a.m.
I tell everybody, if you can take a couple days and track what you do, but when you're most productive, and you'll know it. I know it. To me, after lunch, there's a lull after lunch where I'm like, okay, I got to get going again, right? So I know if I stack the most important things of the day from 8 a.m. to 2, I'm going to crush those things. And then there's diminishing returns after that. It's not to say I throw in the towel, but I just know the really key things, that's where I need to do it. And so that's a good example. Like he's not doing that in the morning, but he's doing it when I'm not doing it. And that's different strokes for different folks. Whatever works for you, that's what you should align your habits and kind of routines around and maximize the efficiency for you.
Yeah. And I mean, in your role, do you have to deal with, it's fun because you have to deal with sports, the office, but also so many events. So I'm imagining like you say, after lunch probably you have happy hours, meetings, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit earlier. I mean, our world is based on relationships, and Kansas City especially is it's a small market. It's everyone knows everyone, and I think for me that's part of my role is being out front, being out in the community, being out with our business civic leaders and making sure that we've got a good seat at the table, and we're more importantly we're listening to them and what they need as well. But yeah, that's a big part of what I do.
Right. Yeah, cool. So I want to talk about because you went to England, you mentioned you grew up playing basketball, and now you're CEO of one of the MLS teams. But you took maybe a lot of people don't know this, you work in a few teams in basketball here in the US, but then you decided to go to England and work Derby.
Derby County.
Derby County. And how did that happen?
Yeah, I feel like I should have the original rights to Ted Lasso.
Right? Yeah.
To call Apple about that. Yeah, I mean, I think, so I worked in New Orleans for a quick stint. I was there for Katrina and helped relocate the team to Oklahoma City. Was there for a little over a season and a half. Ended up going to Charlotte with the NBA team there for 2 years. And through those two different times, I'd met a couple of folks at the NBA league office and then at the club. And they had gone over, an American group had bought Derby County. And so those two guys went over. One is the president, one is the head of commercial. And so they called me and said, hey, we'd love you to come over and run the ticketing for us. And I was like, absolutely not, no chance. I was like, I love Charlotte. I'd been married for a year. It was a great city, good friends, loved my boss. Like it was a great setup. So they were persistent and went over and checked things out. And I think the ultimate impetus for me to make the move was it was a great opportunity. I was managing the entry level team in Charlotte at the time, which I loved. But this was an opportunity to go run the entire department. So smaller group versus the NBA, but I would be the guy running it. And to me, it was either this is going to work and you're going to get a lot of credit for this, or this is going to fail epically and you also get a lot of credit for that. And so to your question earlier about was there a moment that sticks out, that was a moment that it's funny. At the time, it didn't feel that risky, right? When I was, whatever I was at that time, 24, 23, you're making the move, you've done all the math in your head. And I'm a very lay out the pros and cons, look at it objectively without emotion and what's the right move. And so We did. Made the move to England, started from scratch their ticketing program. I think, even to this point in time, the bigger clubs, the Arsenals and, Man Cities of the world are very sophisticated commercially. But even back then, they really weren't. And so we were in the Premier League when I got there, quickly descended into the Championship. But, I started it from scratch. I think we had a lot of success. We were in the Championship for 2 years. We outdrew, I think, 11 of the Premier League clubs. So we had a great history in Derby, great team, we had a great business side. And for me, that was a great learning experience of how to actually put a team together from scratch and do that. And so a lot of good lessons learned there. And I didn't really know soccer that much. That was kind of my dive into the sport. And I joke now, if you're going to go learn it, it's not the worst place in the world to do it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the whole soccer culture there is the teams are very attached to the community.
Yeah, it's hard to describe unless you've been to Europe or some of these places. And I would say, our biggest rival was Nottingham Forest, and they were 20 minutes away, right? So imagine Derby being in downtown Kansas City at a 33,000 seat stadium, in Overland Park having a club that is a rival with another 30,000 seats. It's hard to comprehend the scale of how close the teams are. And then the fan base. I mean, when we had home matches, we'd have somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 away fans in one section. I mean, the energy is fantastic. I think there's a lot of learnings that we've tried to pull from that into MLS and what we do, but it's a different energy and it's a different passion. And listen, it's there. I would describe it as like it's the commercial side of the NFL mixed with the passion of college sports is what English football is.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. Yeah. What do you do differently? Because I read about these records and the team beating sales records, Premier League teams and that stuff. So what do you do that works so well?
There's a couple things looking back that were funny, right? So the club had been, when I got there, they were celebrating their 125th anniversary, which again, the history is kind of hard to wrap your head around. Mm-hmm. And so we propped up, when I got there, it was literally like, call this number if you want to buy a ticket. And we would mail out the season ticket forms and say, if you don't send this back within 30 days, your ticket's gone, right? And so we put in a sales team that was proactive and calling the community and, setting up, hey, why don't bring your friends out, bring your group out, bring your church out, whatever. And then on the season ticket side, we were engaging, calling and saying, hey, you've had tickets with us, just checking in, how's it going? And people were freaking out because they'd had tickets for 70 years with the club and never heard from anyone. So they were like, why are you calling me? Did we do something wrong? And so I think it took some time to get people to understand. And then it was really well received, right? We were delivering benefits. We were letting them do things that they could never imagine, right? They were coming out and taking a photo on the pitch and basic things that didn't seem, at this point, wouldn't seem that crazy. But for them, it was. I mean, they had never had the opportunity to talk to anyone from the club, to do anything, to go to an event, to meet a player, to do all these things. And so I think we just, again, back to our initial, how do we deliver experiences on things that we can control? That was kind of what we did, and I think it was incredibly well received.
Yeah, and so you brought those activities or those strategies to sporting, because I saw that.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's funny. I mean, how I ended up here to connect the circle was there was a guy that also had been in the NBA. He had gone to the MLS league office, and we got connected through mutual friends when I went to England, and so him and I would just talk every couple months. Hey, what are you guys doing? What's working in Major League Soccer? Here's what we're doing here. And so, I mean, we would literally just kind of share ideas about what's working, what's not, what do you think we should try? And so him and I stayed in touch for 2 years, and then he ended up working for the league trying to help place kind of execs, and he worked with a couple teams, and he's the one that called me and said, hey, by the way, this Kansas City thing's happening. Are you interested? They're looking for a director of sales. And so flew over here, and I went to Community America Ballpark, which was an interesting experience. But the stadium was being built, could see the vision, could see what they were trying to do, and ultimately made the move to KC.
Made the move, yeah. You made the right move.
So far, so good.
So what did you discover about yourself? What do you think it was the biggest lesson that you learned going to another country, learning another sport? Sometimes a lot of people that has been in the podcast, and including myself, I came here from Mexico and stuff, and other people to have traveled to either to study, to work, and stuff like that. So, what was that lesson that you learned?
Yeah, probably a couple. I think one, it was my wife and I, right? And it was, so we didn't. I mean, we knew the guys that had recruited me there, but we didn't know anyone else, right? And so I think one, just people are fantastic. People wrap your arms around you. I think you form a community, and I don't mean community like the city. I mean community like your neighbors, your colleagues that you work with, and everyone was super eager to help, and that was really amazing as two foreigners that had no idea what we were doing. And, we spoke English, but we spoke American, as they would say. And so, I think that was one, is I think just people are generally good and want to help. And then two, how do you pay that back? When I was building the staff, I think why we had success was because we empowered the people to do it. It wasn't me saying, you do this, do that. Like, we're giving guidance, but I was hiring people that knew the community, knew the city, knew the club, and letting them go do what they do well, right? Whether that's engage and sell the community groups, whether that's talk to the fans and deliver the experience. So I think the lesson learned, to answer the question, is you've got to get the right people in place, but then you got to push them out front and let them do what they do. If you're trying to control everything, I don't have enough time to do that, but also it won't work because you're different than I am, and everyone else has their own unique qualities. You've got to bring those out and let them go flourish and succeed.
Right. Yeah. And how do you, this question is about, I have a little bit more on the mentorship advice to young people, but talking about your team and and giving the guidelines for them to perform. But how do you identify potential?
Yep. Yeah. So I'm a pretty simple-minded guy at the end of the day. And so I try to keep it simple. Listen, when I'm hiring, there's a couple traits that I look for that I think if you can get those right, it doesn't matter just sport, it'll help, right? Like, hard work is one. We talked about it earlier. Like, I want people that are not afraid to work hard. That doesn't mean I want you in the office from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. You got to have a good work ethic, right? Passion to me is incredibly important. Like, you have to be passionate about what you do. In our business, I remember when I first came in here to Kansas City, everyone said, you got to hire soccer people. I said, no. We're going to hire salespeople that I can teach soccer. If I have soccer people teaching sales, that's a lot harder, right? And so I want someone who's passionate about selling, passionate about making a community impact, passionate about marketing. And so, whatever that passion is, I want the passion.
Arvest Bank believes in the power of serving others. That's why we're committed to working with those who serve our communities, from the ones caring for us every day to those shaping our tomorrows, the ones dreaming big dreams, celebrating their unique cultures, and discovering the power of financial freedom. Arvest believes that all communities deserve a financial partner who cares. Arvest Bank, we believe.
I'm a huge, I want positive attitude. I think it's back to my control the controllables. Things are going to go wrong. Stuff happens. Things break. Plans go awry. Like, how you respond to that is important. If you're negative all the time, you're going to drag the team down. So positive energy is hugely important for me. Leadership is key. I don't need the person that stands on the desks and yells rah rah, but I need the people that come in, lead by example. They're going to rally people. They're naturally someone who someone looks to help out, and then open to learning. I think I'm like this. I want people who want to learn, who want to improve, who want to do better. I think if you come in with the mindset of I've got it all figured out, you're going to be in for a pretty rude awakening. And then, high integrity. I want people that, do it the right way, consistently. And I think if you can merge all those together and get the hire right, it works out almost every time.
And you think that has been always the case, or have you decisions, how do you make decisions have changed over time?
Yeah. I think, to me, and Cliff would talk about this a lot, we talk about clarity, alignment, and focus mentality, right? Like, I owe it to the staff and the individuals. Like, you need to understand what your job is, like, very clearly. And so that's first, like, hey, are we on the same page? Here's the expectations. Then, hey, let's get aligned on how we take that forward, how I help, how you help, how we work together. And then on the back end of that, there's accountability, right? Like, at the end of the day, you need to understand if you're not doing what you need to do, there's going to be things that happen, right? And that's going to start with probably a discussion about why and how we fix it. But as long as we're aligned and we're clear, there has to be accountability around it. And at some point, if it doesn't work out, then the consequences, we have a very different discussion. But again, I'm a big believer that no one should ever be fired and be surprised. If they are, that's the leader's fault. And so if we get to a point where you're coming to my office and you get fired and you're like, whoa, like that's my fault. We should have had enough discussions along the way. You should have understand the expectations that is it positive? No, but you shouldn't be surprised at that point.
Right. And in sports and everything, but also in sports, and you play a role in this. How do you have these tough conversations with, there's a lot of emotions and I don't know, like maybe I'm thinking about locker room. There's a lot of emotions going on, lose, win, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you said emotion, because you try to take the emotion out of it. Is how I'm a big like I'll type emails sometimes when something happens and you're like, all right, you're ready to go, and then it's like, nope, sleep on it. I'm a big sleep on it guy. It's fine to type it out. It's time to get it out, and then don't send it until you wake up in the morning with a fresh kind of perspective. And I would tell you almost every time I reread that, and I'm like, delete, right? And so I think if you make emotional decisions, you're going to get sporadic results. Some of them will be right, some won't. And so for me, if I'm having a hard discussion, if I know that, listen, you should never talk to the coach after the game. I don't mean talk to him. I mean like go in and crush him. Right? Like if we lost, guess what? He's ticked. He's mad. The players are. Everyone's frustrated. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to help if I go in and say, Coach, like this was awful. Why didn't we do this, and that? Like that's not productive. Now, if I call the next day and say, hey, listen, like went back, watched the second half. And by the way, I'm not doing this. This is David Lee, and I'm more talking to David about what happened. So I don't want to pretend like I'm analyzing the film. But it's true whether it's, to your point, the players, the coach, or the staff. Like you want to make sure you're approaching it from a, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Help me understand. And then let's get back aligned and go forward. So, but if you're emotional around it might work for a while, but over the long term, it'll never play out.
Yeah, and he applies. I asked, the reason I asked is because he applies to everything, right? Like, for example,
it's an emotional game we play. It's emotional in the office, emotional after the games, during the games, but again, I love that part. But you've got to channel that in the right way.
Right. And in life, I remember like coaching youth soccer. Also, like there's a rule, right? Like a lot of parents wouldn't understand that you don't talk to the coach after the games. Yep. You don't come and ask, hey, why my kid didn't play? Why this and that? It's just like that's not the right moment. Yep. Like go wait until practice, and most of the time the parents forget about what they're gonna, they forget what they were gonna say or what they were mad about it.
I think in life, like listen, someone told me early on from a parent standpoint, when you're driving home with your kids, you shouldn't engage on why did you do this? Like that car ride, like they're emotional, you're emotional. It's the same. Like listen, at the league office, there's a rule that like, hey, if there's a bad call on the field, like give it 24 hours, because what are you going to do? You're going to get on the phone and type to commissioner, whoever, that this was ref screwed up, this happened, this, and so you got to just take that venom out of it and kind of get your rational head back on the right way the next day. Yeah, easier said than done, by the way. It's tough.
Yeah, and you mentioned something that I like a lot. You mentioned learning and being open to learn. Yep. And I can imagine having Cliff. Probably he was a big mentor, role model for you. Still is, maybe. And also you were the youngest CEO, president in the MLS history. So how do you go? This is just how do you learn? Because you keep learning. Obviously, there's not like one day you're ready to step into being the CEO, right? And then you know everything. Yep. I mean, one day you change offices, and I asked Mayor Quinton. I asked how was that day that you what you won, and then one day they pick you up and they say, here's the mayor's office. Go and start making decisions, right?
Yeah, there's not a secret manual in the new office. I'm sure Mayor Lucas said the same thing. A couple of things. One, I don't have it all figured out today, right? I've been doing this job for 10 years. I learn a ton. I can reflect, and I try to be very introspective on what's working, what's not. And by the way, that changes. What worked 5 years ago might not work today. Mm-hmm. There's a great story. One, Cliff the guy is a wealth of knowledge and information, and I don't know how he does what he does today, and he's amazing. So incredible resource to learn from, and to have somebody like that to lean on I've learned a ton. So before I became president, I was chief revenue officer, so I kind of ran all the sales side of the organization. And my boss had left, and before chief revenue, I was VP of ticket sales. Our head of revenue had left. They did a search, didn't really find anyone, and I didn't even apply for the job. So 3 months in, Cliff calls me in his office and says, hey, we're going to make you chief revenue officer. And I literally said, I don't think I'm ready. And he said, you'll figure it out. And I was terrified, right? Because at that point in time, I didn't know what I didn't know. But him and I have talked about this now. They saw how I was. It was all the things I was showing up. I was working hard. I was doing the right thing. So I didn't even think to apply, because in my mind I was like, I don't know a lot about this. I know ticketing, I don't know sponsorship, and this and this and this. What I now realize, and what I try to do to my staff, is like, if you have people that have the right traits and qualities and characteristics and do things the right way, you can throw them into situations they're not comfortable with. And as long as you have a life raft to support them, they will figure it out, because that's why they're successful at what they are. Cliff saw that at the time. I certainly did not. I was terrified. I left. I was calling everyone in the league who I knew, hey, can I get 30 minutes to talk about this? And that, but that's the learning part. I went straight into like, I need to figure this out quickly.
Right.
And to me, that was, how do I talk to the best people at this that have done it for a long time that I can just absorb information from? And so to me, you should always be trying to better yourself, whether that's, listen, we have so many great podcasts, or a great example, books. Like when I'm driving to and from work, I live in Overland Park, so I got 25 minutes each way. Always podcast, always audiobooks. I'm not listening to anything else. I'm trying to learn on that time. It's easy. There's so much information out there. Someone described it the other day of, you have the smartest people in the history of the human race that you have access to. Okay. Whether you use it or not, that's up to you, right? And so whatever that is, I try to absorb and learn a couple new things every day.
Yeah. And having that support, right? Like you said, like the support of them, they were willing to give you that space to learn, but obviously after learning is performing.
But I'm glad it's a key point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because if you don't have that, they can set yourself up for failure. Now, a good leader should not do that, right? It's not a gotcha. It's not a like, oh yeah, we'll do this and this. Because I was transparent. I said, okay, let's do it, but understand, like, I'm going to trip and fall a couple times along the way. And they were like, that's good. Like, let's just, as long as we're doing things the right way, if we make some mistakes, figure it out, and let's keep going. So I think the support from leadership and peers is immensely important. And to your point, it's very different. I left that day as a peer to the rest of the vice presidents, and I came back the next day as the boss. And the only way that works, it doesn't matter if the other boss, Cliff, says, Jake's now in charge. If they don't have the respect for you and you haven't done it the right way, they're going to say, why is this guy here? Like, he's been cutting corners. He hasn't been doing it. Why are we going to listen to him? So I think sometimes people, when you're going through your day-to-day and you can't see what that next step is, you might not realize how important it is to just, it's back to our consistency and discipline. And if you do that, if there comes a day where you're elevated into a different role, you'll have the respect of the people that you've worked with.
Right. And just to play another analogy, is like kind of like in sports, right? Like the captain. Yeah. If not because the coach says you're the captain, you're going to earn the respect of the team. The team has to kind of like choose the guy to be who is going to be leading. People
know, right? People know in business and in sport, if just because you get the title doesn't mean that you actually carry the respect with it.
Right. Is there talking about this, is there a leadership lesson that you learned the hard way?
Yeah, there's probably a couple. I mean, the first one that comes to mind is early on, I think your tendency is to lead the way that has made you successful, right? And what I mean by that is, for me, I came up in the sales side. So I knew how to sell. I knew what worked for me and my style. And so initially I was trying to force everyone to do your way, right? Because it worked for you. It doesn't work, right? And I think quickly I realized, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, it's like, okay, there's a good message from one of my first bosses. He said, you have to message to everyone consistently. So we got 10 people, like that message has to be the same. Then you have to manage to the individual. So I want to make sure that everyone's getting the same message, which is like, hey, here's the goals, here's the objectives, here's the why. Do we all understand? Yeah, okay, great. Then it's the leader's job to say, okay, so-and-so is motivated by money. So let's figure out how you can sell and make a ton of money. This person might want to be a leader and actually manage this team someday. So we got to do the message, but let me help you with how do we get you to there. And I think what motivates people at the core, they want to feel valued and they want to feel like they have a path to achieve their goals. Everyone's goals are different. It's the leader's job to align their goals with what's good for the company. And then, listen, this guy said the same thing. He said, hey, your job is to make your boss look good. That's what everyone's job is. And that's not about, you're not sucking up and you're not, brown nosing. What you're doing is, if I make Cliff look good, that means I'm doing my job, which means the organization's doing great. Right. If my staff is making me look good, that means they're doing their job and their staff. So that's how I think about it. It's like, I want Cliff to be proud of the team. I want him to feel great about what we're doing. I want the owners to feel like, man, like we're so excited to have this team in Kansas City. If I do that, that means we're doing our jobs very well. Right.
Yeah. And how do you identify this when you say like, because this is a topic, for example, and I talk to a lot of small business owners, even though sporting is 70, 75, 80 people.
No, we've grown, my friend. So we're probably, with the technical staff and everybody else, we're probably pushing 250.
Oh, 250? No. Yeah. So you're not a small business anymore.
Medium business. Yeah.
But like running a small business or running a business in general, but like people, right? People is the asset that you need to manage and to learn. And I just think it's interesting. How do you find these motivators?
Yep.
Because a lot of the times people would just imagine this is just money.
Yep.
But
yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, you have to earn a fair wage, right? That's the baseline. From there, that's actually, I don't think, what motivates most people. What motivates them is, do you feel fulfillment in the job? And do you feel like you've got a path to do more? If you feel like you're coming in every day, you can't do anything more, you're never going to be out of the same role, you're just like literally coming in, punching the clock, and you don't feel like you're making a difference, it might last. You might be that person who can just come in and punch out, but you're not going to get the most out of them. And so I think we try organizationally, how do we make sure everyone has a voice? I'm a big, we should manage from the bottom up. Like our youngest staff, they have the best ideas. I don't have the best ideas, right? So I need to crowdsource that and make sure that I'm putting them in environments, in meetings, in roundtables and we do a lot of that, right? Whether it's, hey, let's working on game presentation. I came from the stadium this morning, which is why you're seeing casual mode. We walked the building for 3 hours, like every space. What works here? What doesn't? What can we do different? And so I think we tried. And by the way, that's a mix of 15 people from every different department. And it's not just the executives. It's people who've been here for a year, 5 years, 10 years, because that's where you get the value. And I think if people feel like they're helping drive that change, then ultimately they're going to feel more connected and more determined to make sure it works.
Yeah. More value. Yeah. I think in my own business, I apply this. I work with a very young team. I have a very young team. And sometimes people have come to me and say, like you're doing it wrong, or like it's very, it's a very young, but you need to hire, you need to have some older people in your team and stuff like that. But I think, what we do, marketing and stuff, and nothing wrong with the age or not, but I just value the new perspective that younger generations and younger people bring, right? Like, and the space that we're doing.
100%. And if you don't, then I won't last another 10 years, another 1 year, because you've got to make sure that you've got your finger on the pulse and you're innovating. And we talked about innovation of technology, but innovation in the experience and how we do things. And you need fresh eyes or a great resource.
Right. So you mentioned when you driving, you go to after all this conversation about leadership and being the boss, but driving and listen to podcasts. How do you disconnect from work?
Couple ways. We've got I've got two boys that are 12 and 3 days and 13, and so we've got we've got a property down south, so we can get out in the country and drive around and do things, and forget about real life and do boy stuff. Try not to break bones, but drive ATVs and hang out. So I think to me it's I love being outside. I love outdoors. I think there's a connection to nature that for me is relieves stress and kind of helps center me. That's good. And so whether that's going to we love going to Colorado in the summer just to get in the mountains and get away. And, nice. I'd rather go somewhere warm right now as we look at the snow outside. But, time with family, working out is really important to me, right? On the weekends, if I'm getting out on the bike and riding, it's almost a meditative process. And so I think people mistake work-life balance for equal parts. It doesn't have to be that, right? It can be 30 minutes a day. It can be an hour a day. It could be a 10-minute period where you just, take some time to go on a walk. And so for me, outside, relaxing, doing physical activity is something that helps kind of recalibrate my my mindset.
Yeah. I think some people, I like to walk, right?
Yeah,
and sometimes people, when they ask me what do you do, and I say, oh, I like to walk. Yeah. And I put headphones, and sometimes I'm not listening to anything. Yep. I just put them just to kind of block the noise.
Yep.
But they're like, that's weird, and I'm like, sounds weird, but it's honestly is when I have clearer ideas. Like I'm walking for 30 minutes an hour, and then I'm like, I'm just listening to myself, I guess. And
I think there's immense value in letting your mind roam. I always say, people often say, I get the best ideas in the shower. Why is that? Because you're not listening to anything. You're quiet for however long you're in there, right? And so I think I'm with you. I like to walk. I sometimes do the same thing. Put the earbuds in. Don't listen to anything. Just be out there. When I'm riding the bike, it's the same thing. I'm not listening to anything. I'm just kind of let my brain wander. And I think that's a underappreciated thing that people don't do enough of right now.
Yeah. How do you battle? I'm sure you get burned out.
Yep.
Sometimes. How do you battle that?
I think you got to be realistic about when that happens. How do you how do you address it? I think there's a tendency in execs and leaders and hard drivers to just, I'm going to power through, and that's weakness. I don't think it's weakness. I think it's realizing that you've been going hard and you're pushing it, redlining it for too long, and you've got to figure out a way to like disconnect, right? And so that can be, again, that doesn't mean I need to disappear for 3 days and, go on a wellness retreat. It means I probably need to make sure that, okay, like Saturday, I got to take some time. I got to take some time for me. I got to let my brain wander. I got to do something fun with the kids. I got to just try to get away from work. Because at the end of the day, if you're exhausted and stressed and overwhelmed, you're probably operating at some percent that's not 100, right? And so how do you get back to 100? That's what I always try to get to, is like, okay, it's worth taking a couple hours to recalibrate versus powering through. And the hard part is actually doing it.
Yeah. I think, and like now I think it's burnout is, sometimes people hear burnout, the word, and it's like back in the day, like sales and marketing, nobody, that feeling that nobody wants to listen at it, and or like burnout and treat it as a bad thing. But I think it's like you say, it's just recognizing it's not a weakness, it's just something that can happen, but you need to figure it out and get out. Yeah,
and listen, have good people around you, right? To me, my wife, she'll know. Like if I'm burnt out, I'm also grumpy and irritable, and so she'll call me on it. And you want your peer group and friend group to be able to say, hey, like you're kind of off. What's going on, right? Because sometimes you're so in the middle of it. You got to have people that you trust that are looking out for you as well. Yeah.
So let's get to a little questions about mentorship. I think you said it before. At Sporting, you look for people with passion, with great attitude, work ethic. But what advice do you think that young leaders? I'm going to change a little bit. What advice do you think young leaders hear too often, and what they should hear instead?
Yeah, I think they hear, work hard. If you do all these things, good things will happen. And I think they hear the right sound bites, right? Or the snippets of like all the things that everyone just constantly says. What they don't connect into that is like, how is that good for me, right? If I work hard and I do that, then what, right? And so I think people are willing to, run through the wall if they're inspired by the leader, because they know the leader has their best interest in mind. So I think that is the piece that, a lot of leaders can say all the things. It's, can you actually convey to the person that, hey, by the way, when these happen, here's the goal. And you've told me these are the 3 things that are really important to you. Let me help you achieve these. And here's what it takes to do it. So I think there's got to be a connection of not just do what I say because I'm the boss and it sounds good. It's also, hey, I'm trying to help your career and progress you as a person. And listen, for us, some of the things I'm most proud of are the people that aren't here anymore. It's people that were in that office that we started together that were, 22 out of college, and now they're vice presidents at other sports teams doing stuff. Like those are, listen, would I like them at our place? Absolutely. Like they're really, really good. But I'm also, if I'm going to tell you that I care about your career and I don't have a spot for you here and you're ready to move on, then I need to put my money where my mouth is and say, you know what, this is a great opportunity over here. Like if you're passionate, let me help you get there. So letting people go and grow is some of the things that I look back on and the most proud of.
Yeah. I think from that generation, there's a lot of people from that generation that I know from Sporting. There's a lot of people doing great things in sports.
Sure. Yep.
So, yeah. What is something that you wish somebody would tell you before?
You can't do it all by yourself. I think early on, that's the tendency is I'm gonna just do it, and I know how to do it, and this person doesn't, and I can do it faster, and that's true. But you can't scale that. You can do that early on in your career. I think I learned as you get into more of that executive leadership, it doesn't work. I can't go put out every fire. I can't fight every battle. I can't deal with every personnel issue, and you've got to have a team that you can rely on and trust and empower to do that. And I probably tried to be too much of the superhero, as I would say, for the first couple of years of I'm just going to go do this, but it's you can't. That's not sustained success if you're trying to do everything yourself.
Right.
Someone should have grabbed me and said, "Just you got to let these people learn on their own." Because listen, that's how I learned, right? Like I learned by doing it. The irony is then when you get in that role, you don't let other people learn sometimes, and so it took me a few more years probably to realize that.
Yeah, and I love that because that applies to businesses and all scale.
Yep.
Like they tell you, like myself, you need to learn to delegate. Yep. You need to learn to let it go. You need to learn to be okay with somebody else doing it. And sometimes it's hard because you're like, no, I can do that 2 times faster. Or
it's hard because what got you there won't get you to the next step, right?
Yeah.
But it's hard to sometimes realize that and change your behavior.
Yeah. So let's talk about the World Cup. I think World Cup has been a big moment for Kansas City, and you've been involved behind the scenes for years.
Long time.
A long time. I think people don't realize that probably when Kansas City put the what's the word? Not the pitch, but
the bid.
The bid.
Yeah.
Probably was 2017.
17 was when I submitted the initial bid to U.S. Soccer. Yep.
So how did that happen?
When I started in 2010, and I don't know if that was the first cycle where they were announcing the 2018 and 2022 locations, which were Russia and Qatar.
Yeah.
We had a big party at the 810 zone down on the plaza at the time. And I just started. I was not part of that bid. I had nothing to do with it. But I was there for the party, right? I showed up, and the Sporting was throwing a big deal because they were heavily involved. And we didn't get it. And it was like the most deflating moment I can remember of like that bar was so depressed because that group had put so much time into it. It was like you could feel the wind get sucked out of there. And so fast forward when they had the chance to submit, and this was, in 17, it was they had decided they were going to submit as a united bid of Canada, Mexico, and the United States. And so we submitted to U.S. Soccer Federation as wanted to put Kansas City as a city for hosting matches. And here we are, however many years later, almost 9 years later. But it's been a long process, and there's a lot of iterations on the way. But what a moment in 2022 when we found out we got selected. So that was the opposite of that 810 zone bar, right? It was like the depressed. You could hear a pin drop to just pure excitement and jubilation when we heard Kansas City announced in 2022.
Yeah. And what a crazy moment for you to start as a CEO and do that months later.
Yeah, right into it. So it's hard to believe. Looking back, it's crazy how long of a process it's been behind the scenes and the work that it's taken. And by the way, I played a small role in this. We've had a great team and great community support along the way, but it's going to be unbelievable this summer in Kansas City.
Yeah. What has been your role? You say it's a small role, but I think you have played more than a small role.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Listen, I think when it starts, it's very soccer driven, and we're the soccer team in town, and so we were heavily engaged. We knew all the players, we knew US Soccer, we knew FIFA, and so we were very out front. I think as anything, as it becomes more and more real and concrete, you're pulling people in, and so I was very engaged the whole process. As the bid gets announced, we formed the board in 2022, which I'm a part of. And so, we've got a great team now. Pam Kramer runs it, the CEO for KC 2026. So fantastic organization. I'm still very engaged from just FIFA, city, kind of helping. Obviously, we got a couple facilities that we've got in the mix for base camp. So the games will be at Arrowhead, but, Compass Minerals, where our first team trains, will be a base camp. We've got a couple others out there if you read the rumors that may or may not be happening. But I've been involved behind the scenes really since day one.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And also, like, just to put it out there, the big picture, right? Like, people don't realize this has been you said 10 years. Yeah. 10 years in the works. And so sometimes people just realize like, like this is happening, then next year we haven't hear anything, we don't know what's going on and stuff. But I mean, I'm sure there, like you say, there's a team working on it from 10 years back. So things are under control. It's
things are under control. Listen, there's a lot of work to do before. We talked off there a little bit. Listen, our season Sporting starts in a couple weeks. Are we ready yet? No, but we've got 2 more weeks preseason. We've got 2 more weeks of prep. We will be. The World Cup's the same, just on a different scale, right? We've got a ton to do. We know the game dates. We now know the group stage opponents who will be playing here. Incredible draw, in my opinion, to get Argentina to start. And so I think FanFest will be spectacular. That's being announced today as we're on air, so that'll be out there when this comes out. And so, listen, for the city, for the region, it's going to be an event like no one's ever seen before. Yeah.
So talking about that, what opportunity does this mean to the region, to Kansas City and the region beyond soccer?
Yeah. A couple things. One, I would encourage like small business, medium business, big business. Like we've got a great, if you go on KC 2026 website, there's a great resource for how to leverage it. The key is it's going to be what you make of it. I tell everyone, I think if you expect the old, if we build it, they will come. But then what do you do when they're here, right? You want to get out front of it with your business. How do you leverage it? I think if you just expect to open the doors and the floodgates to open and people to come throwing money at you, it might happen in some areas, but I think for the most part, I'd encourage people like take advantage of the opportunity. Like as a business, how do you leverage it? Get out there, be aggressive. That's really the key. I think from a region standpoint, we talk about, I think if you look at Atlanta in the Olympics in what was it, 96, what Atlanta became from there, very different city. How do we bottle up this World Cup energy that we're going to get in the eyeballs on Kansas City and continue to elevate, not just KC, but the region. And I think we've very fortunate to have great support on both sides of the state line. It's been immensely supported from the region outside of just KC. For soccer, soccer or anything in life, there's no bigger event that will happen here. Even if we get a Super Bowl down the road, nothing will compare it to having 6 matches here for the World Cup in under 30 days. But it's going to be fun, crazy, chaotic, but ultimately I think a summer to remember for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you say, I think we get really good teams, starting with Argentina. I mean, we know Argentina is one of the teams that more fans travel.
Yep.
So normally they go. This is where I don't know. Like this is, I want to see your opinion because here is going to be a little bit different because obviously there's enough fans from every country living in the U.S.
Yep.
Right? Like so, another like Russia. I went to Brazil 2014. Yep. And so, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, they normally fly 40,000 fans, 50,000 fans. But here, there's enough of Argentinian fans just living in Miami, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
How do you think that's going to be? Like, you think it's going to be a mix, obviously, of both?
I think so. I mean, the U.S. is unique for all the reasons you mentioned. And also, listen, I said this from day one. If FIFA came in 2019 and said, we need you to play next month, we could. We have the facilities. Now, the pitch size would be a little off and there's some nuances, but a lot of these places, they're building these buildings from scratch. They're spending billions of dollars and they're never used again, right? Like the Chiefs put on big events 10 times a year. They know what they're doing. They can handle a match. So I think you'll have a big mix of the local fans within the region that are going to drive in for matches to Kansas City. But also I think you're going to have a lot of Argentinians that are going to get on a plane and fly up in base camp where the team base camps, if that ends up being here, depending on which rumor that you look at, which I can either confirm or deny yet. But yeah, I think you'll have an amazing following for the clubs. I think, listen, for those who aren't aware, I mean, Argentina won it last time around. This is their first match since then.
Right.
It's amazing that we got that game. And so I think their next 2 matches in the group are in Dallas. So if you're a fan, why not come to Kansas City and hang out? And it's easy to get to Dallas if you want to go to those 2 matches. If not, you're going to be in the city where your team's hanging out.
Right. Yeah. And probably the last World Cup for Messi. So
yep. Yeah.
It's going to be huge for them.
Yep.
So
I said the last World Cup was his last World Cup, but he keeps going strong.
Keeps
so
going. So we'll
who knows?
see.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I think he can stay in the team until he say, I cannot move anymore. So.
Yeah. He's still playing at a pretty good level. So.
But besides Argentina, I mean, Netherlands is going to be huge. Playing, and Ecuador, they will bring a lot of people. So yeah, I think the summer is going to be fun.
Yeah, it's just it's such a spectacle. It's such a celebration. I think having those fan bases here, the ones you mentioned, are tremendously supported. And so how do we make sure when they leave Kansas City that they say, that's a place I want to go back to, right? And I think not just the fans that are here, but the fans watching on TV. I think that's our goal is how do we make sure that Kansas City is remembered after the tournament in a place that people want to come back to. Yeah.
So actually, that was going to be my question. How do you hope that Kansas City is remembered after the World Cup?
Yeah, we're working through this right now. Like, what do we? You can call it legacy. You can call it the sustained impact of the tournament. What do you want that to be? We've got a couple of really good at it. We've spent a lot of time on this. We've worked with both the community leaders, civic leaders, and so I won't pretend we've got here's the exact how we're going to do it yet. But listen, I think we talk about we want Kansas City hospitality to shine through, right? When fans are here, you can feel it. I think if you go to New York, the coast, it's different. When you come here, how do we make sure that Kansas City shines through? That experience is something that, whether you're from Argentina, the Netherlands, Iowa, it doesn't matter where. Like, we want that to be a core piece of that, and then ultimately a place that if you're watching on TV, you can feel that energy as well.
Yeah, and it's so important also to involve the local community, right?
Of course,
to be part of this this experience.
Yeah, you have to. One, we wouldn't have it without the community, and two, I think they're the ones that are going to bring it to life. So I think we can have a bunch of great ideas, but again, it's no different than business. Like we've tried to source that from the community rather than say, here's what we think we should do. Like, how do you want us to help out? And so I think we've got a bunch of great ideas that we've been able to talk to folks about through the course of the last 2 years.
Yeah. And so what are you excited about besides the World Cup? Let's put the World Cup on the side. What are you excited most for the next 24 months for Jake Reid?
It's a great question. I mean, to me, this feels like I'm almost starting over in the role, and I don't mean that we're building it from scratch, but there's a great energy in the club right now for all the reasons we started this podcast with, from the local ownership group to the soccer side and the changes we've had there. And so I think sometimes when you're a fan, you don't see the direction the club's going. You see what's happening right now, right? And right now, it doesn't look good. We had a rough year last year, and we haven't played a game yet this year, so unknown. I see very clearly where we're going. Is it going to happen overnight? No, because nothing does. But I am so excited for where we're headed, the people we have on board, and what the next 5+ years is going to look like for the club. I think it's a great just new beginning for us, and I think it'll be amazing for fans, old and new, to be part of the next evolution of who we are as a club.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I've been following, and I think you guys been doing great. Obviously, the experience going to the stadium. I got people visiting from Mexico. I brought a team, and they went to the stadium. They love it, and then from Guadalajara, and they just say, dude, this is so different than going in Mexico to a game and stuff. And so the experience as a fan, right? Like, and obviously, like we talked before, then is the sports side, but there's a lot of elements and factors going on in sports, winning and losing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited for this next chapter at Sporting. So, and we're in good hands with you. So.
Wow, I appreciate that. It's exciting, and it's fun to be a part of, and excited to see where we go here in the short term.
Yeah, so I want to be respectful of your time. I know that I appreciate that right now there's a lot going on. You said you're in the preseason, World Cup and everything. And so, yeah, I appreciate that you came to celebrate 10 years as a CEO with us. And we're going to bring a cake.
You were there from the beginning, my friend. So you saw it from the ground up when we were in the old office. So it's exciting to be here. And listen, this was a great conversation. I really appreciate the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, I tell people, back in the day, you feel like a startup.
It did.
Like I don't know if Sporting was the one that invented it, but I remember First Fridays.
Yeah.
You remember it?
Oh, yeah.
We just have it at the little parking lot.
Throw the barbecue out front, a couple kegs of beer for fans coming by. So, I remember very well.
And every Friday there was pizza at the office. And, it started like a startup and just doing this amazing work and relationships in the community and amazing people in the organization. I still have, as you know, close relationship with Sinoe and Eric and many, many, many others. I tell people that now with what we do at marketing, Fresco marketing, a lot of those relationships started because when I was going to these businesses to bring the tickets or to do the activations with the players and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Sporting has a special place in my life.
Yeah, so. Well, I always say we've come a long way, but we haven't drifted that far from who we were then. And kind of, I think if the core of who you want to be as a club, as a person, those things sustain, and as the things grow, it's important to realize where you came from along the way as well. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, Jake. So last question: if you can sit down with a 15-year-old Jake, what would you tell him?
Let's see. 15-year-old Jake would have been probably a sophomore who had his entire life figured out at that point in time. Enjoy the journey, I think. Take it slow. I think at that point you're trying to chase whatever's next in life, and you've got these big aspirations, and you don't care about what you're doing now. But the destination's great, but the journey is what it's all about. And I didn't think I realized that definitely not as a teenager, that's for sure. So enjoy the ride.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for everything and sharing all these lessons. I learned a lot. I'm sure I'm gonna go back next week and listen to it again, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna listen to it, enjoy it, learn from this. And yeah, we appreciate you. And thanks for everything you do for the community and for the sports and soccer community in Kansas City.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. It's great being here. Thanks for having me, and it's great to see you again.
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening, watching, and so stay tuned for the next episode. We have a great conversation with Reid, President and CEO of Sporting Kansas City. So see you next time.
Arvest Bank is a proud sponsor for today's Fresco El podcast.